So, transferable skills. Transferable skills to me, again, since my work with Mount Abe, we started with the competencies long before the state came up with transferable skills. We didn't invent them either. They've been around for thousands of years. But I think they are the key. But I love our conversation about you don't want them to be like this watered down thing. So the Holy Grail. So I apologize. Can I identify this movie? Footloose, right? I don't want to be too preachy. So, so this is an exercise we do with teachers and parents, which is this question about what do you want 5 years from graduation? I did it with a group of parents up at one of our schools, and they'll nail the proficiency. They'll nail transferable skills. They never, ever mention periodic table or battles of the Revolutionary War. And that's key. You do it with kids, they're going to say the same things. What are the skills they want? So you can turn it two ways with parents, and if you do it with your staff, they'll only reinforce that the transferable skills are what people want out of the work. So interesting that we looked at these. We never talked about Tony Wagner. I was going to make you guess which Tony it was. It's actually this Tony right here. So these are Tony's 7 survival skills. They are very similar to everything we've talked about. Global achievement gap is where he put these out in the first time. And that was probably 10 or 12 years ago when he put those out as, and he didn't create them. He talked to business leaders and said, what do you want? And this is what they want. To me, and I love that they added, the only thing that's really missing here is numeracy. I do think there's got to be a financial literacy component that's not really built in. So I'm going to run through each of these 6 bullets, but the idea is how do you build transferable skills into what you do day to day has kind of been my mission. So that's not I'm going to teach my science, and now I'm going to teach a transferable skill. And that's what we found at Mount Abe is some teachers were stopping their teaching to teach a skill and then going back to what they considered their calling. And that was a no-no. Or, oh, you want personalized learning, go talk to the personalized learning people. No, it's something you have to integrate. So I'll run through these really quickly. But what I've done is I've taken the AOE proficiencies, their samples, and I've matched them up against the 8 practices of science and engineering. I like that broad-based approach where you're not being driven by the content, but you're driven by the skill they're learning. So to me, that is, I mean, I'll put it, that's my soapbox. It is about these skills. When you start making it content, you've gone down a couple layers too deep. On the other hand, Global Citizenship, I think, did a great job about not making it about their content. They made it about inquiry, history, geography. So it really varies from proficiency to efficiency as you look across the state samples about where their focus is. But when I found the NGSS ones, this one, the 8 practices, I said, that's what I want to build my proficiencies around. And we'll get to the content in a second here. One of the big problems, I think, is the silos that we ask teachers to live in. You're a math teacher, you're a science teacher, you're a K-3 teacher. The big ways to get people out of the silos, in my mind, is to integrate classes. When you start, one of our English teachers is teaching a class on cinema. It's really broad, but it becomes less about the content. Yeah, they're watching movies, but they're writing and reflecting, so that becomes more skill-oriented. When you get 2 teachers to teach together, suddenly that they're having to merge, like American Studies becomes more about writing and thinking and talking within the content. But American Studies is so broad, we have 2 groups teaching it out of Alley, and they're taking it, one's thematic, one's chronological, but it's both working. So it's not about the content, it's about what they're trying to get out there. And really encouraging personalized learning. And you really can't encourage personalized learning until you know what the goals are. So if you don't have proficiencies, kids can't go out and be independent because their targets are so vague. So, obviously. So you probably can't read this, but this is, you can read that. There's a little bit of loss in translation, and we just had this conversation, and habits of learning equal, I didn't know we were going to have this conversation. But in my mind, we keep hitting, vital results, this, and we're just confusing people. They are the same thing. And I've gone from saying, this conversation led me to think the habits of learning, that student-friendly language is probably a better model than the transferable skills. So if you're going to have a continuum, we crosswalked our habits of learning that we've developed for RNCU with the transferable skills, and they link up beautifully, but there's a language switch at 7th grade. You stop talking about habit skill, you're talking about transferable skills. And the kids are like, oh, it's something new. And it's not, they're the same thing. So having a common language from pre-K to 12th grade is important. So kids are like, oh, we did this in 3rd grade. Yes, you did, but I have a higher expectation for you now. So another thing we've done, or I've been working on with teachers, is mostly K-6, a little bit in the 7-8, but a teacher I'm working with did a unit on the Oregon Trail. Very specific, very content-based, and she focused on the content. Well, I said, why don't we call it Why People Move? And it became a unit about why people move from place to place. And we built into that science and ELA. So suddenly she's not teaching a history unit about the Oregon Trail. She's talking about why the kids made this KLL about why people move from place to place. They're reflecting about it. We built in simple machines into this unit. So they're talking about how simple machines are integrated. We are now writing a unit called Why People Stay. And we're talking about geography and what keeps people and what makes people move from place to place. So again, she's thinking thematic instead of units. So what about content? That's always the big bugaboo, and as much as I love transferable skills, they live within the content. They're the vehicle that get you the transferable skills. So that content's not gone. If you look at grade schools partnership, the transferable skills are on top, but content supports them. You've got to have that content. You've got to teach the Oregon Trail in order to get to those concepts about they're writing a narrative. That was the big ELA connection in that. Why people stay is a persuasive argument that we're working on in ELA. So you need that content so they have something to tie all that work into. But the content is fleeting. If I could quiz you all on the periodic table right now and you would all not do well, it's my guess. Maybe some of you might. One of my favorite slides is I often think that we bite off more than we can chew. That is the scope of our work. And my other favorite cow slide is this one, is that we all know that cows can what? Walk upstairs, but can't walk down hall. I did find a slide of a cow going downstairs, I gotta be honest. The trick is to get folks going up this work of you can't turn back. I love your slide of don't look back, that's not where you're going. It's the same idea. You gotta get them started, get them thinking about the work.